Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. I bet you are busy getting your jerseys on, getting your treats made, getting ready to party with friends. I have to admit, I am not a football girl, even though my brother was a football coach. Just doesn't do it for me, but I do like parties, and we're going to be going up to the neighbors for some pre-game fun. Then I'm going to come home and watch a movie. But anyway, that's what's going on here at my place. I did want to talk, though, for just a minute with you about football as a metaphor for our life. And there's just so much we can learn from watching all this hoopla and what happens and everything these guys go through to get to that big game and then hopefully win that big game. I think we all have something in our life, some goal that is a big goal, something we want to achieve, a dream or an accomplishment, or maybe we just want to work on being a better person, a better parent, better at our job, whatever it is. We all have goals in our life, whether we realize it or not. And for some of us, those might be big goals. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about how you might be able to work toward achieving your goal and winning your own personal Super Bowl. I think, of course, it does start with what's the Super Bowl? What am I trying to get to in life? And some of this focus is going to be for those of us who are writers or who are building a following somewhere like on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and who are wanting to make an impact on other readers and help them. So that'll be kind of the primary focus, but I think these principles apply to anything, whether you're talking about, I want to get out of debt, I want to get a better job, I want to get a promotion. Like I said earlier, I want to be a better parent, I want to learn more, whatever that goal is. So the first thing, again, step one to doing that, what's my Super Bowl? What's the goal? What's the win? Once you've identified that, then you can start breaking this down into some other steps. So looking at these football players, how did they get where they got? Well, they had to start by mastering their sport. They had to start by training. They had to start by learning. And for those of us who are working on, let's go back to writing, working on becoming a writer or a better writer, you got to get some training in. And early on in my career, I've always been a writer, and I always was writing, but I realized you can get a lot better at this. So I started haunting my public library and checking out books that I thought would be helpful. Anytime there was a new book on writing in the library, I was there checking it out. And some books I checked out and then I bought because I wanted them as keepers. I wanted them as textbooks to have on hand. And I'm going to show you a few books that really helped me as a writer. This book, I went to time and time again. Hopefully you can see that. This is Writing the Blockbuster Novel by Albert Zuckerman. And you see the word Ken Follett at the top. Ken Follett, I know some of you probably read his books. He wrote Pillars of the Earth. He wrote The Key to Rebecca, The Eye of the Needle, a lot of really big books. And this Albert Zuckerman was an agent, a literary agent. And he used as an example some of his big name authors to show how they improved in their writing. When early in my writing, I would just bang out my little book and go, okay, I'm done, wasn't that fun? And this kind of set off light bulbs for me and made me realize, oh, you can do more, you can go more, you can be more with what you're writing. Think about making your plot bigger, going deeper into your characters. And I have to admit that's something I still work on, improving on, going deeper into my characters and making things bigger and better. So this is a great book if you're a beginning writer to check out. Another really good book, it's in my little pile here if I can get to that. This is a basic, almost everybody has probably read The Writer's Journey. There are a few things in here I don't agree with, but I do see a lot of this when you go to the movies or even when you're reading a book. There are often certain steps in writing a story, and this covers those. So Christopher Vogler, and I'm sure a lot of you have read that if you're writers, but that's a good one if you haven't read it. And also, I always figure anytime we are learning or taking advice or listening, you don't have to go with everything that you're not going to agree with everything that you read. But you take what works for you and what's going to help you, and you go with that. So there's that book. Here's another really good book. Donald Moss has written a lot of books on writing. This is one of his older ones, but I love this book. This was really helpful to me. And even though this is an older book, I mean, good advice is still good advice. Good tips are still good tips. So that is a really good book to have. This book, Save the Cat, there is now a version for writers of this. This was written by Blake Snyder, who is sadly no longer with us, and it was designed for screenwriters. But the tips, I got all kinds of tips from this. And now I'm reading the book that's designed for writers and finding that really helpful too. So that's something you might want to look into if you're a writer. So those are some really good tips on writing. Now maybe, well, I want to improve as a parent, or I want to get past some of the hurts in my life and be able to move on. We all need advice and counsel sometimes. I found this book really good. I was reading this, thinking this might help someone that I knew, and I found some good things in it. So good old Dr. John Deloney, Own Your Past, Change Your Future. If your goal, if you're Super Bowl and you want to win a Super Bowl, if that happens to be getting over some of your problems and issues in life and moving on, this might be the book for you. So those are some of the things that I've used with training, but also this John Deloney book, that just makes me think of another thing that we need. Football players need coaches. They need guys who know stuff, who see the bigger picture, and who can help them work together as a team to achieve their goal. Well, we want mentors too. So maybe your mentor is a teacher, a professor, an older friend who's been down the road that you're going down, someone who works in your profession who can maybe advise you, or again, a therapist that will help you work through if you've got issues that you need to be taken care of, who can help you work through those issues. Find a coach. Get somebody who can help you. If you're a writer, are you going to writers' conferences? Are you learning things from people who have been down this road and made a success out of their career? Are you going to work conferences so that you can become better at your job? We can always learn from others. Again, not everybody has all the answers to everything, but you take what's going to help you win your Super Bowl and you go with that. So you want to find yourself a coach. Here's another thing that we want to do as we are working toward winning our Super Bowls. You do have to have a game plan. So how am I going to get, the goal, the 11-yard lines as they get closer and closer to making the goal? What is my game plan? What is my step-by-step that I'm going to do to get better at what I'm doing? So I'm going to write so many hours a day, or I am going to read so many books on my profession. I am going to take a parenting class. I'm going to make the list of what you're going to do to get where you want to go to achieve your goal. And then you can check it off as you go. And then, of course, you have to do the list. It doesn't do any good to make a list if you're not going to do the list. And I want to give a quick shout out here to writer Megan Chance. Years ago, when we were all young, she was working a full-time job and writing on the side. And she would set aside Saturday mornings. That was her writing day. And she would not come to anything or do it. That was set aside. That was that time. Nothing interfered with that time because that was how she was getting to her goal. And I just think that's such a great example of disciplining yourself to do what you need to do to get where you want to go. So sometimes there's a little bit of discipline involved here to meet those goals and get where they want to go. And I have some wonderful writer friends that are hugely successful and have done well and overcome obstacles. I'm sure many of you have heard Debbie Macomber speak and talk about some of the things that she overcame to become the successful writer she is today. And that's just one example. I could list so many writing friends who have worked really, really hard for years. Now they're like big superstars, but they didn't start out as superstars. They started out as, I want to be a writer. And they worked and worked and worked to get to where they wanted to be. And so the same with you. And I'm sure you're looking at, maybe if you are working on being an influencer, you're looking at people who are way up here and they have all these followers. Well, they got their followers just like us, just a few at a time, one at a time. And for those of us who are writers, that's how we build our readership, one fabulous reader at a time. And it's important to keep that in mind. Not going to happen overnight. We're going to work toward it. We're going to set our goals. And one other thing that we want, if we're going to get to that Super Bowl, it's really good to have a team. I think it's a really good thing to have people supporting you. Who believes in your dream and who would help you? Maybe you've got a spouse who's like, yeah, hon, you go ahead and I'll take care of the kids and I'll do the vacuum, I'll do whatever while you are getting that book finished. And oh my gosh, I got to do a shout out to my husband, to Gerhardt, because he just does all kinds of stuff around here when I'm on deadline. He just takes over. It just says, you just write. You need to write. Go ahead and write. I've got it covered. And that's just a huge help. And then, of course, we have friends who are going to be encouraging and say, yeah, you can do it. I'm really excited for you. The people you don't want to hang out with and have on your team are the people who go, you know how hard it is to get published. You know how hard it is to write a song. You know, the whole America is a mess and you're never going to get anywhere and you're going to be living in your car. I mean, those are the people that you don't want to hang out with because they're just going to infect your brain and get you discouraged, and we don't need that. So you want to make sure you pull a team around you who is really pulling for you and who's going to help you. So those are just a few things, a few thoughts here today on Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you can set some goals. I hope you've got a Super Bowl in mind, and I hope you can maybe put some of these things into practice. Check out whatever your Super Bowl is, do your research, do your training, do your discipline, get your team together, and get out there and win your Super Bowl, okay?